A former Director General of the National Broadcasting Commission, Malam Dalla Dibako, joins me on the news. Good to have you join us.
Thank you very much, Precious.
So it used to be just one platform. Most of us remember that. It was just NTA at the time. Until under your leadership, licenses were given to individuals and professionals to come into the industry and then set up, giving rise to private stations like as we have now. But how would you say the deregulation of the media, as it were, has contributed to objective reporting, professionalism, and press freedom?
Well, the major thrust of the functions of the press include providing information, creating balance with views, and democratization of the process so that not just one word and one voice is heard. Now you have multiplicity of voices. Now you have feedback mechanism that allows people to get back to government about the performance of government. So the public and the masses and the electorate and the citizenry have become judges that they could easily make up their minds what is the performance of every sector of the economy, every government, every individual, and every law that is created for government. So definitely, well, from just about 70 radio and TV stations owned by state governments and the federal, today you have upwards of about 820. And in fact, if anything, there's even a threat on the government network, which is NTA now, because the private networks include TVC, Channels, Silverbird, and Arise. These four are owned by private. So in times of crisis, they can drown the voice of the NTA because they are privately owned and their motivation is different. And so it allows room for the kind of freedom and allowance for people to be able to explode and to be able to implode and be able to talk about what they feel and how they feel. This has become one of the best responses to government and autocracy. Where you have autocracy and dictatorship and the voices of the people cannot be heard, it comes into an undercurrent of things that boil into a revolution that has happened in so many of the republics in the past. Today, that democracy is engendered by multiplicity of voices, opinions. Nigerians are getting gradually to learn how to accommodate public opinion. Some of the things that have happened in the last 10 years or 20 years of democracy, when I was on air as a live anchor, I couldn't take those risks because I knew what was waiting for me outside, a Land Rover, to take me to an unknown destination. So today, democracy has allowed us so much freedom. I'm not saying it's an ultimate freedom, but it's a little better than what we used to have. And that multiplicity of voices allows the people to be able to ventilate, very crucial, cross-level communication, horizontal communication. No more the vertical top-to-bottom communication. Way back in 1932, when radio first came into Nigeria through Redivision, when government speaks, nobody responds. In fact, there's no feedback mechanism because you just hear it and that's it, it's law. Today, you have so many feedback. In fact, some of the live programs that you have and phone-in programs are so challenging that sometimes I even fear for the anchor. I fear for the station.
And Dr. Dalla,
you cannot control.
Apologies for butting it because you just talked about, I want to reference two things you talked about. One of them, you mentioned the famous or infamous rover that will be waiting for you, back in the days, if you say, if you were out of line or seem to be out of line on air. And then you also talked about now the fear for, sometimes the fear for the anchors. And some people will say, look, right now we might not have the rover waiting for us, but there are sanctions and fines imposed by NBC, and sometimes that could also stifle press freedom, where the anchor is scared as to what questions can I ask, how far can I go. What role do you think that the NBC has played in all of this?
I happen to have been the Director General for the second edition of the Code. And even the last code, the present code, which is the 6th edition of the code, I chaired the session where everybody's input. Now, in creating a code, the Act of the National Broadcasting Commission in Section 2 gives it the power, mandates it to create a broadcast code to look at the platforms, the regulatory frameworks that will allow for freedom. Where your own freedom stops, my own starts. I cannot step into your own, farm or cross the borders. The red lines are there. So that code is the ground norm for the broadcaster. That code is a product of NUJ, civil society, broadcasters themselves, licensees, military, everybody. So normally once in 5 years, a whole lot of about 250 people come to the final stage where that code is assessed. Every word is determined. Every phrase is cross-checked. Every aspect of it, paragraphs are looked into. By the time that code has determined and agreed by everybody else, you have an obligation not to cross the line. We've seen it happen. Today, a large part of what happens is disinformation. People deliberately. And let me tell you that the police is created because it is obvious people will break the law. If otherwise, if everybody was going to be decent, there won't be a need for a police. The NBC is the policeman of the airwaves, and people definitely always break the law to get cheap political points. So we expect that, as it happened in the past, as a staff of NTA those days from 1979, I had a section of our handbook that tells me what to do, what not to do. It was our own pattern of self-regulation. I'm not saying everybody should have self-regulation. I'm saying that every station should have a desk where you do quality control and adherence to the code. Simple.
I really want to keep you on longer because it would be just a privilege to just listen to you speak because of your wealth of experience. But I'm afraid I do have to let you go. Hopefully, younger professionals like us will have more time with veterans like you. Thank you so much for your time. Former Director General of the National Broadcasting Commission, Dr. Danladi Bako.
Thank you very much, Precious.